Okay, guys, so we have this all UV mapped, and then we have to go through the process of texturing it. And I'm just going to use I did a search just so we could see, which was the, man, my goodness, um, which was the Honey Smacks. I was crazy about Honey Smacks as a kid. Still love them, just can't have them as much. But we're going to use our little friend Diggum or Sugar Smacks, which is going way back when it was, you could actually say there's just tons of sugar in something. And we're going to use this as our texturing for this box. And because of this, it's an existing product. We may have to actually stretch out the box a little bit because mine might be a little bit more square instead of rectangular, which means I'd also have to take this, my UVs, and stretch it out a little bit, but we'll see. So in either case, what we got to do is go into Photoshop, and I'm just going to do it this way where I will go in and grab old Diggum, and I could save it. I did save it out. I'm just going to go copy the image. Just for the sake of ease. And I'm just going to say File, New in Photoshop. And I'm going to go off of what's on the clipboard. Now, here's the weird thing. So actually, I could see that the size isn't what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this what's called a 1K texture. So that's 1024 by 1024 pixels, 72 pixels per inch, because we're not doing print, we're doing digital. RGB with a white background, 8-bit. So these are the specs I want. And I'll just call this one Smacks. And I'll just say that. So these are the specs I want to have. I will create that, and I'm just going to paste that in, Control V. And I may have to do some, it's a little big. Actually, it fits at least that way perfectly. And what I'm going to have to do is hack this up, and I also need to take and get what's called a UV snapshot, so I know exactly where all these faces are going to fit. Okay. And so I go back into Maya. I've got my UVs, and I have to do a UV snapshot. And what a UV snapshot is a picture of these UVs so that I can line up my textures the way I want them. And the way I do that is I go to Image, UV Snapshot, and it's spitting it out into my project, and I'm just going to call this one, it's going into the Images folder of the project that I created, and I'll just call this one Out UV Smacks. That'll work. So I know what the heck it is. Oops. And, way too big. Let's make this, we only needed JPEG and 1024, not 2048. That'd be freakishly huge. That's just fine. Apply and close. What are you doing? What are you doing? Let's see if that'll work. There we go. That to be in object mode. So now what I can do is, and there it is right here, is I can go, I'm just going to snag this, Control C to copy it, so it tells me where it is, and go back into Photoshop, File, New, actually, File, Open. I just paste that right in. Oh, yes, you are. Fine, we'll just go here. Oh, I know what it is. D drive documents Maya. D drive. projects, and there it is there. So I'm opening it up just for a second. All I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, Control A, copy it, and paste it into my smacks. And of course it looks like, well, that I can't see anything. And that's all right, because we're going to go in and we are going to change how it's blending on top of our image. And I'll just change it to screen. So depending on how I change it, I could do overlay, but that, kind of changes that. I could do multiply, but then you just see through the lines. So we're going to do, we're just going to do a screen. And I can always just fade the background, like, take this image temporary, this layer, and just drop that down. But part of the problem is also this. I actually don't want a white background. So I'm going to go to my background layer. I'm going to get my eyedropper, and I'm going to choose the red of the smacks box. And we can see it pops up in my background, so I'm just going to flip that. So it's the foreground. And on the background layer, I have it selected. I hit Alt, or if you're on a Mac, it'd be Option, Backspace to fill it. So now it matches the same color here, more or less. And the reason I do that is because if there's parts that's bleeding and I can't really see it that well, what's going to happen is it'll just go to a red instead of a white haloing outline that shouldn't be there. And now what I need to do is I actually need to line up these things based on the model. So in other words, I need to make sure that the front is on the front, the back is on the back, and so on and so forth. So, which one is kind of, relative. This could be the front, that could be the front. It depends on how you'd want it to be, the lids to be. If I make this one the front, then I have to swap things around a little bit. So a good way of doing this is I go back to that layer and I just start copying and pasting parts where I need them. And if I actually changed my map, my mapping, I would have to make an adjustment in there, but let's assume that this one is right. We can make adjustments as we go along. So I'm going to use my marquee tool. I'm going to grab what would be the front of the box minus that black line. I'm just going to grab the front. Okay, and I'm going to Control C, Control V, and now it's all by itself. So I could literally just go in. We see it. Press V for the move. Oops. Let's lock this layer. So now you see I can't move that top layer anymore. It's locked. I clicked on this. And make sure you're on the right layer so that you can actually move it and say this is going to go right into that center. And we can see it doesn't line up perfectly. So I'm just going to hit Control T and make sure that it does. Press Enter. So now that's in the front. Now I turn that off. Let's go turn this one on, and I want to get the sides. Okay, so I need to get this and this, and I just take them one at a time. Marquee tool, grab that side, and actually I could even add to it. So here's a little trick. I'm gonna grab the whole thing here, minus the front, copy, paste, and there they are. So now I can move these so that they match into there. And we see that this, yeah, it's not lining up the way we want it because our UVs are a little bit off based on the box. So I could either modify my UVs to fit the image, or I can modify the image to fit the UVs. Ideally, it's probably better to modify the UVs, but I just want to spend a little bit of time in here kind of showing you this. So I could either tighten this up so it fits a little better, but we can see where my outlines are. And what I'm thinking is I might just modify my UVs when I get back in there so you can actually see how that's working. So in other words, if I move these guys like this, so they're on either side, that actually looks okay. Except for the fact that, yeah, that's not fully in there. We'll fix that. So what's happening is, yeah, the shape of it is a little different from the shape of my UVs. That's all right. Hide these, go back, and I have to get the back of it. Copy, paste. And I can move this up to the top so it's hiding that black bar. If I'm trying to get like some specific edge, it's just not doing it, I can just tap my arrows. That looks okay. Now I just need the top and the bottom. These guys I'm going to take a little bit of creative license because you could see it's two. We see this and it would be on top of that. So either I can make that myself and then fit it in, or I can just embellish and just take this part here. What I mean by that is that this isn't the complete top. This is 2/3 of the top. This is a third because this goes on top of it over to about here. So you see this at the bottom and then this. So in other words, if I went to here and I just grab this part, you'll see what I mean, and I copy it and paste it, turn on these guys, shift, Control T to transform, and then shift left mouse button to rotate. I'm going to put you here. I'm just going to leave you there for right now. And then we get the other part, hide everything but that, this part. So we select that, copy, paste, oops, copy, paste, there we are. And that's not working right because it needs to be on top. And that's a little weird because we have this black strap that's there. So this is what I mean where we could take creative license. I don't, you know, if somebody's not going to get that close to it, you don't have to see that. But I could just go in and on this layer just delete out, marquee it, and delete the things that I actually don't need. So when I'm here, I just need to get rid of this black, and I could use my polygonal lasso just to quickly Now you'll notice I'm leaving a little black line on it, and actually currently that's intentional. Just going to go around it, delete. Line those up. If I select two layers and hit Control E, I flatten them. So now these are all one piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that and I'm actually going to make it like this. I'll adjust my UVs when I bring the image in. But I'm just using this guy as my outline. And then I would do the same for this guy at the bottom. Marquee tool. Copy. Paste. And then the same for this one here. Copy, paste. And the same deal where I just have to trim it. Use the poly tool. I can actually take creative license and cut this one a little bit more so. And once again, is anybody even going to see it? And delete. Oops. Go. If I want to, so you can just see a little bit of the edge because we're losing it, I could even go in with a brush. And just really, really, really lightly gonna go across that. So we can just see a little depth. Once again, this is the bottom of the box. Nobody's going to see it. But if I have both of these, Control E to flatten them. And then I just line this up so it matches the width. And then I'd have my texture. I just have to make some adjustments to the UVs. Now, I just say File, Save As. Usually I use a Targa or a TIFF, but just so you can kind of see it and make the file size smaller, I'll use a JPEG. But normally you'd use a Targa or a TIFF because they're lossless. You don't want to keep working with a JPEG. And oops, not that one. JPG. And this goes into the source images folder. Save. Maximum. And the last thing would be to go into Maya. And now I can assign a new material to this. Right click on it and hold. Assign a new material, and the material we'll talk about more depends on what properties. That's another video. But if I want there to be shininess and reflectiveness, I'll probably choose like a blend. If I want it to be flat, it'll be a Lambert. So let's give it just a little bit of shine. Make it a blend. Right click, material attributes. There's my blend. And in the color, we want to put in, and I clicked on the little checkerboard, File, and then what's the file? Smacks, right there. You notice nothing happens. It's in here, but not on here because I have to press 6. And look at that. Almost perfect. Almost. It even has a little shine to it. Oh, nice. But this is off, so all I got to do, select it, turn off the checker. We want to see the texture map. There it is. And in the UVs, I want to adjust this so it makes sense. So that means grab the UVs and move them to where, see, there we go, where they need to be. Because if they aren't, see that? And there it is. Makes me want cereal. Because of the way the texture is, you see it looks a little squinched. I'll just open it up so it makes a little more sense. And now you see it actually looks more realistic to the texture.